John Stuart Mill, the philosopher who fought for freedom, reason, and happiness. Who was John Stuart Mill? John Stuart Mill was a British philosopher, political scientist, and civil servant, and a great economist, often considered one of the most important liberal thinkers of the 19th century. Raised under a strict and intensive education program by his father, James Mill, who was a follower of Jeremy Bentham, Mill became a genius early in life. But as he matured, he began to rethink and revise many of the ideas he was taught, developing his own powerful theories about liberty, utilitarianism, individuality, democracy, women's rights, and freedom of speech. Mill's ideas were grounded in the Enlightenment values of reason, progress, and individual freedom, and they remain deeply influential in modern democratic societies. The first idea of John Stuart Mill was utilitarianism, also called the greatest happiness principle. Mill is best known for refining and defending utilitarianism, the ethical theory first popularized by Jeremy Bentham. According to this theory, actions are right in proportion as they tend to promote happiness, and wrong as they tend to produce the reverse of happiness. But Mill added a twist. Unlike Bentham, who thought that all pleasures were equal, John Stuart Mill argued that some pleasures are higher than others. He believed higher pleasures to be pleasures of the mind, for example, art, music, literature, intellectual pursuits, and lower pleasures to be pleasures of the body, for example, food, comfort, and sex. Mill famously said that it is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. This meant that the quality of pleasure matters, not just the quantity. Humans should aim for moral and intellectual growth, not just basic gratification. His next great idea was liberty, the importance of individual freedom. In his famous work on liberty, published in 1859, Mill laid out one of the most powerful defenses of individual freedom in modern history. His central idea is the harm principle. The only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others, is what he said. He argued that people should be free to think, speak, act, and live how they want. Society and government should not interfere unless the person is harming others. Even unpopular or offensive opinions must be protected because freedom of speech leads to truth and progress. This idea is the foundation of modern liberal democracy. He believed that a healthy society needs open discussion, diverse lifestyles, and free individuals. He also supported representative government and democracy. He was a supporter of democracy but with careful conditions. In his work, Considerations on Representative Government, he said that a good government is one that helps people develop morally and intellectually. Democracy is the best system for that. It helps people participate, learn responsibility, and check the abuse of power. But he worried about the tyranny of the majority, the idea that a large group could silence minorities or unpopular opinions. So he proposed proportional representation, education for voters, and giving more voting power to educated people, which is a controversial idea today. He was a great supporter of women's rights and gender equality. He was far ahead of his time in these regards. In his book, The Subjection of Women, published in 1869, he argued that the legal and social oppression of women was morally wrong and intellectually damaging to society. Women should be allowed to vote, work, own property, and receive the same education as men. Marriage should be a partnership of equals, not of domination. His advocacy for women's rights was revolutionary in Victorian England, and he even introduced a bill for women's suffrage or voting rights in the British Parliament, one of the earliest attempts to do so. He also believed in education, liberty of thought, and the role of genius. He believed that education was the key to developing individuality and making democracy work. He was deeply concerned that conformity and social pressure would crush genius and diversity. He believed that genius should be protected and encouraged. Original thinkers are essential for society's progress. People must be free to explore new ideas, challenge the traditions, and experiment with life choices. This idea formed the basis of his emphasis on liberty of thought and lifestyle and remains crucial to modern concepts of academic freedom, creativity, and tolerance. Why is John Stuart Mill still relevant? John Stuart Mill was a towering intellectual figure who combined ethical theory, political philosophy, and social reform into a bold vision of a free, fair, and enlightened society. His ideas about freedom, happiness, equality, education, and democracy still shape the way we think about human rights, governance, and personal development today. In a world full of competing ideologies and noise, Mill reminds us of the importance of reason, open discussion, and individual growth. He stood for a world where people are free to think, speak, and live as long as they do not harm others, and that vision continues to inspire movements for freedom and justice across the globe. Thank you so much for listening.